Chapter 8. Chad. Although I wanted Taylor to leave me alone with Cody, I wasn't ready to hear what he'd say next. You know he only wants you for your money. I raised an eyebrow at the audacity of an assumption made purely about a man he just met. My thoughts were, Cody wanted to fill my head with doubt and get Taylor out of the way. As much as I loved my brother, he always had some sort of agenda. He claimed it was my idea to enlist into the Marines, but in truth, Cody had steered that train. I know where he comes from, and he's poor. He may have managed to get through college, perhaps he will finish law school by fucking his way through, but he's gay for God's sake. And so are you, I barked, staring at him when he stopped pacing, looking around the cottage, then turning to meet my stern gaze. That's different. It was time to stop him, and not allow him to fill my head with his own insecurities. I didn't want Cody to forget how his life had spiraled out of control when he came out. That was years ago, when the people of Nevermore weren't as progressive as they were now. It appeared on the surface that no one cared anymore who we dated or married, and besides it wasn't the older folks in the town then, but Cody's young peers who gossiped about him behind his back and gave him a hard time every way possible by bullying him on social media. Although he was older, he was more sensitive than me, and I stood up for him when he could not. It was one reason why he left Nevermore. He could never handle the pressure that his friends had placed on him. He must have forgotten all of that. I was a different person then, too. I didn't know until now what was important in life. I thought I had to have acceptance from everyone, but when it mattered the most, and when I needed my friends, they turned their backs on me. Yes, of course you had, parents who gave you everything. Good schools, and what we thought were a loving group of friends. Do you remember how they treated you when they found out about you being gay, and do you remember who it was that stopped them? Cody lowered his head in admission. He remembered the pain he'd suffered at his friends' hands. How they set him up with a guy who had broken his heart, and he'd cried on my shoulder, and his so-called friends had ridiculed him and taunted him until he left town. He met my gaze with the painful memories that came back. I didn't want that to happen to you, Chad. It's not going to happen because that has already occurred, and I knew what to do. I hadn't talked to Jen in months because she never came to see me after the accident. Oh, she called and wished me well, but her excuse was, I don't want to see you like that. She probably thought I'd hold her to a promise to marry me. You know, I proposed to her that night of my accident. It wasn't as if we'd gotten married, and then the accident. I had no intentions of holding her to that commitment. Besides, it was my fault that things went down the way they did. I can't blame anyone for my drinking and being a stupid ass. That was all on my shoulders. My life is my responsibility and no one else's. I make my own decisions, I said. It was important for Cody to understand that I took responsibility for my actions, and he couldn't make decisions for me. Taking a breath to keep from tearing up, I said to a silent and motionless Cody, I thought I'd never be happy again, and now I am. You see, you never know what tomorrow will bring. But I've always wanted the best for you. You're my little brother, Cody said with a sad, closed smile. And who's to say that Taylor isn't the best? Not my friends, not you, no one. As I said before, it's my life. I will take the brunt of any criticism, and being your brother in this town and in the service, they'd ask if I had a brother, and I'd proudly say that he's gay. I aimed my glance up at Cody, looking for my big brother's approval as I poured my heart out to him to understand my choice, as I had protected and understood his choices in life. I sense Taylor's heart is good, I admitted. It has only been a few weeks since I've known him, but I've been more whole and alive with that man than anyone I've ever met. He doesn't look at me and feel pity, like some of our old friends and Jen had. I see desire and strength in him for me, this man without legs. That alone has given me renewed courage, and to getting back to being myself, but even better. I've been given a second chance, and I'm going to make the best of it. You know how I've always wanted to compete in the Olympics. How is that possible? Cody questioned. Haven't you heard of the Paralympic Games? But I thought the Special Olympics. Once again I had to teach my beautiful bright brother some things that he should have known. He must have been consumed with his relationships, traveling and working, that he had little time for anything else. The Special Olympics is different from the Paralympics. The Paralympic Games are for physical disabilities. Special Olympics are for mental disabilities. What do you think your chances are? His face lit up. He loved when I got involved in things, and especially politics. He knew that once I returned from the Marines, that I'd have a platform to run for office. Propelling a wheelchair, I'm the best. Why do you think I didn't want that electric monstrosity you sent? It's good for others, but not for me. I mean, what are your chances of running for office? Cody questioned, with the eagerness of a big brother, pushing his agenda. My agenda was to crawl before I walked, as the adage went. If I have the man who's responsible for all the changes you see here, if he's by my side, there's no limit to what I'm capable of doing, and besides I have the sympathy vote too. I hit my thighs. Cody finally left the cottage, and I wheeled myself out to look for Taylor. The scenery had been magnificent the day before, but I was upset, and I couldn't appreciate the wraparound porch with 2 chairs to look out at the walkway lined with large flat stones, and a cement pavement for a wheelchair, both providing a path to the wooden steps and then the deck. I turned and propelled my chair around to the left, and there were more chairs to relax in where you could see a lake. The privacy and natural beauty of the pines and flowers took my breath from me. I sucked in a large breath and exhaled. I can get used to something like this, a getaway cottage for me and Taylor when things get too hectic. Turning, I felt someone behind me and I wheeled around, and there stood Taylor with a smile and a pained expression. His mouth smiled, but his eyes remained sad. What is it, Tay? I took so long that the food got cold. I know you're hungry, and I wanted to get it to you quickly, but I couldn't. I didn't think it had to do with the food being too cold. This from a man. When I complained that he was serving me cold food, he'd say, "Get over it." Did they serve you hot food on the battlefield? I chuckled at the thought. Since he didn't want to confide in me as to the problem, I let it go, thinking he'd tell me later. It was important to me not to lose the momentum and the understanding we had reached with each other. I craved the tenderness and warmth in his eyes that he held for me whenever we held hands, and had stared at each other the way he did now. Just microwave it, Tay, and we can eat out here. Look around you, this cabin is magical. That's what Parker told me, and I'd agreed. Parker said that everything was Caden's idea to put us 2 out here, because it had worked for him and Grail, and Parker had agreed. Why not? What could go wrong? Beautiful scenery, small quarters, 2 sexy men in a small bed. Parker laughed when I said that, and then he continued, and I quote, "Where the fuck are those 2 hot men going to go? They'd either love each other that night, or hate each other in the morning." But we found love for each other, didn't we, Chad? Taylor said, leaning in and brushing a light kiss over my mouth, scrubbed his nose against my hair, and said, "You smell yummy," before turning and going into the cabin to heat the food. He was out in a minute with a tray, and on it utensils, 2 plates, napkins, and a vase with flowers. We can sit out here and eat, look out, and forget everyone at the ranch. It's just me and you, babe, and I want to take advantage of everything, Taylor said in a low, calm voice. Where did you get the flowers? I pulled them from the garden. I thought you needed a little brightening up today, because it appeared Cody's showing up out of nowhere left you disturbed. I'd say a little shaken. If I had a brother like him. Oh, that reminds me, you have to meet Miles. He's my brother. Tay hunched his shoulders, Maybe when we get back to civilization we can get together, go out on a date of some sort. Tell our brothers our plans for the future, Taylor said, a wide smile touching his beautiful hazel eyes. I'm not sure about that, I said, because I didn't want to admit that Cody was a special case, and he wasn't sure about our relationship and didn't want to sanction it. I didn't care, but it appeared that Taylor wanted this, and right now, I'd give him everything he desired in life if possible. That was how much I wanted him. As the illustrative Parker had said, what could go wrong? Both brothers are gay, and their brothers are in love. Shouldn't they be happy for us? Taylor questioned, before placing a piece of smoked brisket into his mouth. You'd think our brothers would be happy for us, and I hope everything will work out, but as Murphy's Law goes, anything that can go wrong will go wrong. I thought,